movie you selected is Spies in Disguise, starring Will Smith.
Hey everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials gush and go cool over movies that follow an actor's journey from their early years throughout their blockbuster hit.
Because let's face it, if you were a pigeon, you probably could just take movies from Blockbuster.
And in this show, we don't fly solo. We very much, I like to think, work as a team.
What's up, everybody? I'm Bria, and you should be happy I'm your wingman.
Aw, I am happy. And I'm Simone, and I did not like the fact that there was teeth inside of a pigeon mouth, but we'll talk about that later. There's a lot of great, cool things about this animation, but teeth don't belong inside of a bird's mouth.
There were teeth?
I
I don't remember that. But anyways, in today's episode, we'll chat about Will Smith with his role as Lance Sterling in the 2019 animated movie Spies in Disguise. So let's take a trip back to December of 2019. Oh, what
right?
a quaint
Just, yeah,
time.
a simple time. Little did we know. And
Unassuming.
I like to say this was a busy year for Will Smith with 3 movies being released in 2019. It's a lot.
He was getting back to it. All for it to come crashing down. Anyways, pop culture 2019. All right. I'm just gonna, it's relatively recent, so I'm just really gonna talk about animated movies of 2019
Okay.
to get a feel of the landscape. Starting off with the fraudulent Academy Awards. No. They do pretty good animated wise, except for like Pixar and Disney winning all the time. But not this year. In 2019, for Best Animated Feature Film, the nominees were Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph, Mirai, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Incredibles 2, and Isle of Dogs. And that year, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse won, which is the first for Sony Animations Studios, so that was cool. And then for Best Animated Short Film, we have the nominees are Bow, Late Afternoon, Weekends, One Small Step, and Animal Behavior. And of course, Bow won, so one win for Pixar that year. I've seen Bow. I haven't seen any of these other shorts. Since they're short, I'm curious to see what they are. And then I saw Ralph Breaks the Internet and Incredibles 2. I did not see Into the Spider-Verse, so I feel like I should watch that. I've been wanting to watch it because Miles is black too, but time.
That's what I thought. So this is the Miles Morales Spider-Man movie. And then he gets
I think so, yes.
pulled in. Yeah, it's like an animated movie. And then that's where you get like Pig Spider-Man that was voiced by like John Mulaney. There's like a bunch of other like random.
They actually made Spider-Pig.
Yeah, I did. But I'm curious too, because I know like that movie had the Post Malone song Sunflower. Like I know that was really, really popular amongst a lot of kids. And I mean, Spider-Man is a great, I think like a safe like kids superhero movie too. And I think definitely within the past like, I don't know, 5 years or so that it's had like a huge kid following.
I feel like it always has, but yeah, I mean, definitely the younger people flock to see Spider-Man more than probably like us old millennials, geriatric millennials and stuff. But yeah, I don't know why I haven't watched it. It has an amazing soundtrack. The animation is really cool. And he had Jordans. Why would I not watch that? But maybe I'll watch it later. Other animated films, according to Little Raj, the best animated films of 2019 were Bunel in the Labyrinth of the Turtles. That's a mouthful. And I will note that a lot of these movies, if you go Google this list from Roger Ebert's website. A lot of them seem to be like maybe anime or Asian or like people of color animated films, so that's cool. But of course, we've got Frozen 2, Funan, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, I Lost My Body, sounds interesting, Claws, Missing Link, Oko's Inn. That looks really cool. It reminds me of like I think it's a Studio Ghibli film, but you know, use delivery service and stuff. Promare, Ruben Brandt Collector, Frenemies, The Lego Movie 2, Toy Story 4, and they had Lion King on there, even though it's like the live action. So
There was
I don't really
nothing
wanna count
live
that.
about that though. Like that was all just like a different form of animation.
But it's like CGI. I just feel like CGI animation is not the same as animation. But
Totally.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But they
I know
Little Raj
some,
put The Lion King, so.
yeah.
Well, other movies that came out December 2019. This one I didn't know existed, but Playmobil tried to get into the toy movie trend, a la the Lego movie, with Playmobil the movie, and it stars Daniel Radcliffe. So I'm kind of curious what that is about, but it's like those little Playmobil people type figures. So way to knock off Legos. Lots of Oscar contenders for 2019 in December, and we also talked about a lot of these movies during the JLo Oscar episode. So movies like A Marriage Story came out, Bombshell, Richard Jewell, Jumanji: The Next Level, the sequel, Cats.
That butthole
Portal
vortex,
to
man.
2020. Uncut Gems.
Uncut
The missed
Gems.
opportunity for Adam Sandler to get some award consideration. Little Women and Just Mercy, starring Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan. Also, I found this amazing article. Why do animators keep turning people of color into animals? It is on mic.com, mic.com, and it's written by Brian Anthony Hernandez. I'm not going to read the article, but if you click the link, there is a chart in there of animated movies from Disney and Pixar and how many of them have changed into animals or some other kind of human-like form or something, including Beast from Beauty and the Beast. And in my mind, like, there are things that we as Black people definitely love to argue about nonstop. And I've heard this point of, how come we always gotta turn into animals into animation or in animated movies? And I was like, you know what, that's true. And sometimes you hear those things and you just leave it at that. And you're like, yeah, and you just keep regurgitating those points. But I did like seeing this chart and looking into this and trying to understand, like, where does this trope come from or whatever, and how often does this happen? And the only movie I can think that's a Black animated movie that they don't turn into animals is Bebe's Kids. There may be some other ones, but definitely from Disney and Pixar, it is alarming that each of their first Black-led animated movies, their characters are non-human. And then the same for Spies in Disguise with Blue Sky Studios. And this has happened before for Disney with other people of color characters like Brother Bear and Cusco in Emperor's New Groove. I think the 1963 one is Sword in Stone. I'm not sure, but there is a little white boy who turns into animals apparently in a
That's
Disney
Sword in the
movie.
Stone.
But it amazes me that none of these other white characters turned into animal throughout this whole time. And that this just seems to happen with Black characters. And so I think there's going to be another Black Disney princess. I'm hoping they let her be. But also I think this continues to speak to the need of diversity in these industries. So I'll leave that at that. Check out that article if you don't know or want to understand that perspective more. But and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we go on. But all that to say, I did not want to see this movie when it came out because of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I will hand over the box office and how much did this movie make and
Yeah.
cost.
Well, first, thank you for bringing that up. The thought definitely crossed my mind. Was this your first time watching it today or this weekend
Yeah.
for the show? Yeah. Same. And that thought also crossed my mind of seeing the parallels between this and Princess and the Frog. And definitely hearing those conversations when Princess and the Frog came out in 2009, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
gosh,
Soul.
yeah,
We
and
were all
and
at home watching Soul,
woo!
and so people had
And for
lots of time.
listeners of this show, I FaceTimed Bria after I finished watching Soul and also looped Jessica in as well because that is a copyright slogan phrase, bitch, fuck me up when we finished watching that movie.
Yes. That was a depression spiral I didn't need
Oh my
at
God.
all in the
Sure
middle of
was.
quarantine. Like, but but yeah.
But yeah, no, it leaves a good discussion, and I didn't even think about movies like The Emperor's New Groove and Brother Bear, and I think it's a great like larger discussion that animation studios should be having about yes, you like have this checkbox of having a quote unquote diverse cast, but then what are you actually doing with those characters? What do you want those characters to ultimately portray? How do you want your audience to like view those characters? So it's like, you check
Yeah.
one box off by drawing them, but then you completely forget this like other category about the purpose and intent behind their characters.
It's weird because in that article they ask Pixar people like, did you guys think about this at all? And they're like, oh yeah, we thought about it for years and how to like, handle it and deal with it and do it with care and all this stuff. And I'm just like, and to animated movies take a long time. So that
Mhm.
is absolutely true. They spent years working on that movie. And two, I'm wondering about some of these actors. Soul has a huge named cast: Jamie Foxx, Angela Bassett, Felicia Rashad, John Baptiste did the soundtrack. Even Spies in Disguise with Will, Princess and the Frog, and Ikononi Rose. And I know these are great opportunities for Black actors to be in animation and to do voiceover work. But at the same time, I'm wondering if any of these actors are also asking these conversations like,
Mm.
hey man, like, why you gotta turn into a pigeon? Like, why couldn't the kid turn into the pigeon or something? Or like, why couldn't he like choose to turn into the pigeon instead of it being like this happy accident kind of thing? But all that to say that I hope going forward that they do check in with more people in these communities. I will say too that Brave, the mom turns into a bear, but that is culturally kind of relevant in that story with like the Celtic lore and all that stuff that goes on in that movie. But
Mm-hmm.
she's also not the protagonist. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. So, how much did this movie make for the Christmas holiday season?
So, Spies in Disguise, for those who don't know, Bria, you already said it, but it was made by Blue Sky Studio, first, same studio that did all of the uh, Ice Age movies. So, we've talked a little bit about Blue Sky Studio with season one and Jennifer Lopez. Um, Different from DreamWorks. I kept on having to correct myself when talking about it or just like thinking about it. Um, but unfortunately, Spies in Disguise was the last movie that Blue Sky Studio got to really work on and release before officially closing in 2021. The budget for this movie was $100 million. I'm assuming that that goes into the time and dedication that it takes for animation and also for the huge cast that's in this movie. You got two big box office leads that were hot, 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 hot at this time. Opening weekend between US and Canada grossed $13.3 million. Total gross between US and Canada was $66.7 million, and then total gross worldwide was $171.6 million.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
that's not too bad.
And keep in mind what Will said before for Shark Tale. You know, when you have an animated movie or a kids movie, you're selling multiple tickets because somebody's got to bring that kid to the movie theaters. So
That is true. And I'm wondering if the box office also had some pull with the second lead in this movie being Tom Holland, if that might have maybe like widened the audience a little bit more to maybe some like older kids that think they're too cool to see animated movies, but they're like, it's Tom Holland. I don't know. It could
yeah,
be.
probably. I mean, the girlies love Tom Holland. So
Oh, they sure do. I hear about it all the time. Now, I want to bring it back. The last animated movie we talked about with Will Smith was Shark Tale. Roger Ebert, our sweet little Raj, was the person who did the official review for Shark Tale, and as a refresher, gave Shark Tale 2 stars. Channeling our House of Lil Raj candles, the person who wrote the review for Spies in Disguise was Christy Lemire. We've heard her writing before in past Will Smith movies of this season. Bria, any guesses on how many stars Christy Lemire gives Spies in Disguise?
oh, my bad. I kind of know already. So I did peek, but
That's okay. I'll just tell you
do
that.
I agree? No.
Christy Lemire gives Spies in Disguise 2.5 stars. So with this review also comes a bit of a summary within the plot as well. The animated Spies in Disguise features Will Smith as the voice of an arrogant secret agent who accidentally gets turned into a pigeon and finds he's even better at his job in avian form. Sounds like lively and harmless holiday fun for the whole family with a reliable and charismatic star as its center. Add Tom Holland as the voice of the sweet, quirky gadget guru responsible for Smith's character transformation, and the movie probably seems even more appealing. The Fresh Prince and Spider-Man teaming up to fight evildoers? What's not to like? And sure, you could enjoy the film from Blue Sky Animation, the studio behind Ice Age franchise, on a purely superficial, escapist level. The colors are vibrant, the lighting and shadows can be quite dramatic, and the mere idea of Will Smith as an annoyed pigeon is good for a laugh. But there might be something deeper going on in the film's director, Nick Bruno and Troy Quayne, working from a screenplay by Brad Copeland and Lloyd Taylor. This is where, when I read this review, kind of started to like have my little hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Spies in Disguise might just be making a statement on our deeply fractured times. Remember, this movie came out in 2019. We are still in the hellscape that happened after the election in 2016. I mean, we're still living in a lot of repercussions of that hellscape and cat butthole vortex, with its bad guy, Ben, played by Ben Mendelsohn, who threatens at a crucial moment. You hit me hard, I hit back harder. If you feel like you've heard this phrase recently, it also happens to have been President Trump's guiding mantra since its time immortal. Actually, Trump likes to say he hits back 10 times harder just for good measure. Granted, animated movies take several years to develop. The folks behind Spies in Disguise couldn't have known how polarized we'd be as a society when they started working on the film, and their movie is actually inspired by a 2009 short titled Pigeon Impossible, which I didn't get the chance to watch, but I'm kind of curious. It's hard to ignore the fact that Smith's Lance Sterling views fighting fire with fire as his primary option when approaching global supervillains, while Holland's pacifist tech expert Walter Beckett likes to create bombs that release glitter and awe-inducing images of kittens into the air. He wants to use his scientific mind to bring folks together rather than pulling them apart. And this is even before we all know what happens in 2020. At one point, Walter even says there's no good guys or bad guys, just people. And guess whose philosophy wins out in the end? Seems like a pretty clear message, or at least a relevant and necessary one. besides Smith and Holland, who have decent chemistry with each other, the solid supporting voice cast features Rashida Jones, Reba McEntire, Karen Gillan, Mossy Oka, and DJ Khaled. You could do worse with your family after opening holiday presents, and it might even give you something to talk about with your relatives of varying political persuasions.
I wasn't ready for the Reba.
Sorry. Reba.
Huh. Well, Simone, what is your rating for Spies in Disguise?
I liked Spies in Disguise. I think out of all of the animated movies we've watched so far, I like this one the best. I think it was, there wasn't anything wrong with Home, but I think because we were watching it for Jennifer Lopez and she had such a small piece in it that it was like, okay, we're really just watching like Sheldon and Rihanna on an adventure, essentially. And Home was okay. I liked this better than Shark Tale. I think I would give Spies in Disguise 3 pumps of butter.
Nice. I'm going 3.5.
Okay.
It would be 4 if not for the black man turns into a pigeon. And I say 3.5 mostly because if you've listened enough to this podcast, I believe like Enemy of the State, and I'm trying to think of some other movies, but I love spy shit. And so when I was watching this, I was like, oh my God, if I was a kid, I would love this movie.
Absolutely.
This probably would have been one of those movies that parents, like, I hear my coworkers like, oh my God, if I like watch fucking Encanto one more time, like, I would have ran this movie through the ground. VHS would have been wrecked. And it has amazing soundtrack, crafted by Mark Ronson. So like the opening credits, I was like, oh my God, like. And Anderson .Paak is also on the soundtrack in Lucky Day, and it has like, it's one of those animated movies that's not too kiddie. It might be less kiddie than it should be, honestly. Like it probably could have been more childlike, but I feel like it's kind of like an adult-ish, like it's very adult-leaning animated movie, so I'm here for that. It didn't fuck me up like Soul. It wasn't like too heavy-handed with the message like Pixar and Disney movies can be, where like you're not now questioning your life after watching Toy Story 4. But yeah, I really liked it. Very enjoyable.
I agree. It didn't have that like emotion provoking reaction, but I don't need that every time I see an animated movie. Sometimes you just want to be entertained, and compared to Shark Tale, I was a lot more entertained with this. It made me think a lot about our conversations that we had. I think when we were talking about Wild Wild West and Men in Black, just some of the fun like gadgets and contraptions and little inventions that Beckett comes up with. And I think the overall kind of message of this movie is, I was listening to some like behind the scenes stuff with the directors and animators of this movie, and this is not the first kids spy movie. We've had many generations of kids spy movies, Harriet the Spy,
Agent Cody Banks,
Spy Kids,
Spy Kids,
and
I saw that in theaters, 3D.
Oh, wait, did you get the one where it also came with the smell-o-vision, like the scratch and sniff one?
I don't think so.
Maybe
it's a bad man, help us, save us.
Is this
and Harriet the Spy? I've talked about that. Like,
yeah.
Me and my composition notebook.
Yeah.
Or if you've listened to or watched the 7 episode from Normal or Late Fees, I might be a serial killer. So.
Well, it made me think, did you see that tweet? We might have tagged each other in it, but it was on Instagram, but it was like, don't tell me you're a fan of true crime if you don't know who she is. And it was a picture of Harriet the Spy.
I think so. Yes.
So,
oh man, that would be an awesome Halloween costume.
Oh, and pretty easy.
So easy.
Yeah. Get a little magnifying glass, cute little trench coat, raincoat, comp notebook.
Oh my God. Or for both of us, even though I would love to be Harriet, I totally could. But she does have a black friend. So.
Lovely.
Yeah,
but
I need to write that down.
Yes, and going back to like the interview, like I said, this isn't the first kids spy movie, but I think the creators and directors were very like mindful of at least creating the overall message is that they're aiming to be nonviolent in nature and taking this like you can solve problems in a nonviolent way, in a non-hurtful way, and like all of
I'm
these.
sorry, but Will,
Oh.
his track record so great, and then
Yeah. Well, you know what? We don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict the future. I
I
think
mean,
their
and he's
intentions
human.
were good. He is
He's
human.
human. Sterling had to learn,
He did.
bombs and grenades aren't everything too. So
True, true. True that. But you know what I liked was that all of these inventions that Beckett made were so out of the box and very childlike. Having worked in education with many different age ranges and stuff, even though I don't have the mental capacity to work with elementary kids, they are not limited by their imagination. Like their imagination has no limit. So like of course they can create something that like explodes glitter and has pictures of kittens playing to distract someone. And of course, they can make something that was like a bubble machine or a sticky, gummy, silly string kind of device. Like, I remember being inspired by spy movies like Men in Black and stuff, and kind of like, oh, like what kind of fun spy tool, like little secret pen could I have in my pocket, but it like actually did this. And I feel like a lot of mine was very like bathroom humor, like a lot of fart gags, but but I think that, you know, at least the creators of this movie were onto something when they had this intention behind making a pretty family fun spy movie. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about some of the cast that was in this movie.
yes. Besides Will Smith, let's talk about Mr. Tom Holland, who plays is it Walter? Yes, Walter Beckett.
Mm-hmm.
Um oh man. What okay, they did steal a page from Disney because why did his mom have to die? Like, I mean,
Yes, I
but
know.
we meet young Walter. It's actually voiced by Jarrett Bruno when he's younger, but we meet him kind of making the first like childlike prototype of this glitter bomb sort of thing with his mom, and then later on as we see Sterling on a mission, he utilizes this glitter bomb, which is a surprise to him that it does this, but he's thinking it's just like a regular grenade or something. And so then eventually he goes back to the agency and he finds Walter who made this and he confronts him about it. And so I thought he was I didn't realize there was a time jump. I was like, damn, they got this kid working at like the CIA already. But he's older. He's like an adult, and we learn his mom passes away when we go to his house and we see like her story on the wall framed from being shot, like local hero
Mm-hmm.
saves the day, and her little flag memorial triangle thing that they do for
Mm-hmm.
service people. But Walter is very childlike, and I think it's perfect for Tom Holland to play and voice that character. He
Yeah.
just has that like boyish quality to him. It also blows my mind that he's British
Uh-huh.
and like you can't tell. Per usual with me, I'm always like, wow, they're so good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought that they had great chemistry, and I thought that I don't know, they both just fit both their characters really well. But they also like Tom to me, like besides seeing his name, I wouldn't have guessed that this was him voicing Walter
Mm-hmm.
either. So, but yeah, great performance.
Yeah, and I see a lot of parallels and similarities between his character as Peter Parker slash Spider-Man, because at first I kind of disagreed with like, you know, fanfare favorites of like, oh, this is the best Spider-Man, because I'm like, oh, but Tobey Maguire, don't leave him out. But I think that what he brings to that character is just that, not necessarily naivety, but just when we're in our adolescence, we're still so gangly and uncoordinated and awkward. And you can be cute and attractive, like someone like Tom Holland, but you can still also be very clumsy and forgetful or like bumbling and stuff. And so I like that they've kind of really played on those characteristics. And even in this movie too, like he's a cute animated kid. Let's be one thing I
Yeah.
really enjoyed is that this was very, not, I wouldn't say like hyper realistic, but pretty realistic to, I think, what these actors and voice actors look like in real life, with still giving them kind of a caricature like quality. Like who are the people that draw pictures and cartoons of you on the are those like caricatures? Is that what they're called?
Caricature
Yeah.
art. Yeah.
So that's like kind of what it reminded me of. But yeah, I thought Tom Holland brought like a fun pace to it, to the movie, because I think you need that, I guess, what's that? What's the word I'm trying to think of? This hopeful attitude that
Mm.
while bad people can exist in the world, that doesn't mean that you have to treat them badly, that you can resolve violence or problems peacefully. But yes, totally falling on that trope of not only like dead mom, but like single dead mom and not knowing anything else about his past. And then
Yeah.
he's so lonely and lives by himself, and he just has a little pigeon friend, and he watches Japanese
K-drama.
dramas, K dramas. Yeah.
That was another good quirk. I have a coworker, hey Verna, who watches K dramas, and I've never heard of a guy watching them. So I think that to me though was like another clue into like how sensitive he is and how in touch he is with that side of him, and why he would want to like save the bad guy instead of hurting him or something like that. So yeah, he's just like, hands or chin on hands watching like these
Hmm.
dramatic love stories.
Hmm.
um I like too his delivery of stuff sometimes too, like when he's trying to pitch to Sterling, like, oh, I came up with this new thing. Like, what if I could make you disappear?
Hmm.
And he's like, why are you saying stuff like that? Like those moments too were like really cute and
Yeah.
childlike, like where he's like, effect. Like it's like, why are you talking like this? For effect. Like
But is
um
he? Oh, we lost the spy tracker. Oh, but did we?
what else? I mean, we'll talk about plot and stuff. Shall we move on to another actor?
Yeah.
I have to. Reba.
Reba!
I w- I was watching it, and so Sterling's on the first intro mission where he's like in Japan, and his like kind of a la James Bond, like his boss is like in his ear talking to him, like, okay, don't go in there and stuff. And she's this hearty country accent, and I'm just like, is that Reba? And like nothing in my mind would be like Reba's like voicing over characters in animated movies, so I didn't like really trust, that I knew who that was. I was like, it could be anybody really. But
Hmm.
so this is when I IMDb. I was like, that has to be Reba. And it was her. And I was like, I knew it because I used to watch Reba after school all the time.
Hmm.
So my after school mom. I know. I knew her. I was excited. I was excited for her to do that, and I watched like clips of her doing her lines and stuff, and so it just like warmed my heart. And I was like, they should get Reba to do more voiceover work. Like, why isn't she voicing over Allstate commercials or like Campbell's Soup or something? Like, she's just got. I don't know. Her voice is just really comforting to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought for a second that it was because I saw in the intro title, like, you know, you flash the different like voice actors that were going to be in this movie. So I saw Reba's name. And so as soon as her character started talking, I was like, oh, okay, that's Reba. Um, but for a second, it can easily be mistaken for Joan Cusack, who does the voice of Jessie from Toy Story, who naturally has like a very like Midwestern kind of cowboy accent, but it's like Southern Midwest. I don't know. I don't know exactly where Joan Cusack's from, but she has a very like distinct voice. And so for a second I thought it was her, but then I was like, no, 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 that's definitely Reba.
I just today I learned that she voices Jessie. Had no clue. No clue. um, no, yeah, I definitely knew it was Reba. I did not pay attention apparently to the opening credits because then it would have been such a like, yeah, I knew moment for me. But I really liked her as that character. I think too the role that she played in terms of like she didn't really believe that Sterling flipped or was like doing like stealing stuff, and I feel like that nice warm country accent and that kind of lady of course would kind of trust her top agent, you know. So I felt like that lended to that character at least versus like some hardened like, you know, bossy type of lady would have been like not so nice about it. But moving on, we have another appearance of DJ Khaled in a Will Smith movie. I found that out when I looked up Reba and I was looking at other people and I was like, DJ Khaled. And then, of course, watching it, he's the guy with the hat and like
Big headphones.
his name is Ears. Yeah. So I like the line when the gum stuff is like everywhere and he's like, these are my new kicks. Like, and like those little things where it's just like, oh, DJ Khaled. Like,
oh, Mr. Khaled.
Who else? Oh, Rashida Jones plays Marcy, who is like the lead agent who's trying to find Sterling and accuses him of stealing this high-tech drone. I thought she was good. It's hard to like critique voice actors, but
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's kind of difficult because when you watch like behind the scenes takes of them doing this, you know, you get to see them trying out saying different lines and dialogue in different inflections of of tone. Like there's a different way of saying like, you know, we've got to go now. We've got to go now. We've got to go now, you know, like, and so it's kind of fun to like watch these professionals like try out different takes to see kind of like what feels right or what fits the mood. And Rashida Jones, I think is a great actress. And I enjoyed that her character, I think, was one of those instances where animated wise looked very similar to how she looks like in real life. And I also appreciated that she was really good with what at her job. I guess that just kind of goes with the general plot of the movie. But she was kind of this like badass lead agent who was very resourceful in trying to track down Sterling and Beckett.
yeah. And then we've got Masi Oka, who plays Kimura, another villain that Sterling tries to get. And we also have Mark Ronson voiced the agency control room tech. So that nice little cameo. Who voiced the main villain?
Ben Mendelsohn.
Okay.
He's been in a
voiced Killian.
bunch of different stuff. He has like a very kind of recognizable face. Let me click on his.
He's been in Ready Player One, The Dark Knight Rises, Rogue One.
Yeah, he plays the villain a lot in a lot of different movies.
Would that make you insecure, or would you just be happy you had a niche as an actor? I'm like, why am I
I don't think
like, am
I
I the drama?
am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. I mean, it's funny because you could probably be like the nicest person in the world, but maybe you just play asshole villain really well. And sometimes that just has to do with like with how someone might look naturally in real life. Like someone can like look very villainous,
Yeah,
have
like the
like,
Skarsgårds.
yeah, you kind of like narrow eyes and you just like look a little creepy and suspicious. But I mean, would I take it personally? Probably because I'm very sensitive,
I
but
mean, I probably
good
would think
question.
about it, but a lot of times I think about acting and I'm like, if you can get steady work as like whatever it is, you take that. If
Yeah.
I'm like Catherine Hahn, if I'm the best friend all the time, hey, I ain't got no problem. I got a job. I got I got
Hmm.
jobs. Like if I'm
Hmm.
consistently the, second best character or something, like sometimes unless you have an ego, and then sometimes you're probably like that's when you probably stop getting jobs because you're
Hmm.
like, I should be number one. It's like all the episodes in kids shows where there's a play and the popular girl thinks she should be the main character and maybe she doesn't get it, and so I'm like, I can't be number two. Like, anyways, moving on, let's talk about the trailer. Very cute trailer. I remember
Yeah.
seeing this.
Hmm.
I think too, very very good with like the spy aspect of it, very like sleek and smooth, like when he like his car just kind of flips around and he like just like gets into it, like those moments. Again, like the review pointed out, like the colors and the animation choices were very on point for
Hmm.
a spy movie, I feel like. But yeah, I would have seen this if he had not turned into the bird. Like,
Hmm.
but
And I like
would you?
to, yeah, sorry. The trailer, there are a couple of different iterations of it. I enjoyed that they were um very like musically oriented. I think the trailers did a good job with having some like catchy pop music. Um and there were it's hard to tell because Will like kind of did a song for this movie, but not really. He had like an intro song for himself when he was at that first um scene when he was in Japan, and he kind of like surprised everybody and had some like background spy music, hype music for himself. And the trailer almost sounded like he might have done some music for it. I don't know, it's like hard to describe, but like you hear kind of like background vocals that sound like it could be Will Smith. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I thought that the trailers were fun, and what some kids trailers do, which is annoying, is that they give away a lot of the like main jokes and like funnier parts in the beginning, or their trailers are so like potty humor oriented. And while there was some potty humor in this movie, there it didn't like overly rely on it. So I didn't think that the trailer gave away the the like funniest parts of it, which I appreciated.
Yeah. I don't think he did a song for this movie. I too though felt like that because I was like, oh, he did a song, or like, how come he wouldn't have done a song for this movie?
Yeah, I'm
And
surprised.
on the official soundtrack, that's not the score, but the Mark Ronson stuff. It takes two. And it's just the original version, but I was like, why he could have like covered that and like kind of made it apply to the movie or something, and that could have been a moment. But this just adds to a question, if ever, Will, why'd you stop making music for your movies? Or
Hmm.
I just think that that's not the thing that challenges him as much as acting. And
Mm.
not that he's not in love with music, but I think when you create stuff, you definitely have to be like in a mood, or like, trying for something, and I feel like he probably doesn't have anything to prove musically. And so I don't know. I'd be curious to hear it from him himself, but it would have been fun if he had done even just like a little small thing for
Mm-hmm.
this movie. But other than that, the music's great anyways. And moving on to just his performance in the
Mm-hmm.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like his voice as Sterling was a little different. It wasn't as Will as Oscar was in Shark Tale to me.
Hmm.
There's definitely like moments where he says things like he says Joker at one point,
Mm-hmm.
which is a total Will Smith word, like and just like how he says things like even let the beat drop, or like unbird me now, or like
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Definitely you see that come through, but like there are moments when he's like doing his spy stuff where he's like really smooth, that like don't come out as like that overly charismatic, goofy kind of Will. So I think that's
Yeah.
interesting too, that he's like not silly really that much in this. He's pretty serious
Mm-hmm.
because he's like Mr. Suave Spy. So I thought this was a good change.
Mm-hmm. I could see a lot of the arrogant spy attitude in both human and pigeon form reminded me a lot of Bad Boys and Men in Black a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And just being like overly confident in certain things and maybe not fully thinking a situation through and just kind of very like action oriented, like I just got to do this right now. Um, and I think that he did a good job with portraying that confidence in spy form. And, you know, of, of course, when you animate something, you can take a lot more creative liberties when it comes to like stunt work. So like the part when the buildings like, blowing up, or he like
On the
rides,
gong.
yeah, he like rides the gong like a little aircraft and then like flips through a flying helicopter, grabs the suitcase that he thinks the like drone weapon is in, and then like squirrel jumpsuits down into his car and like makes an exit out of there. Like obviously real physics doesn't work like that, but I think I'm glad that they were able to kind of like animate some of those big action like practical stunt work for his animated character, I guess. And I think that that really added to a lot of his like smoothness and confidence. When he gets back to the agency with the briefcase, he's very like, yeah, here I am, like I did it, that's right, I'm the best, like very arrogant, very
Yeah.
cocky. But that his once he was in pigeon form, some of that like attitude was still there that we might have seen like, but in Bad Boys and Men in Black, but that the confidence was missing and feeling very like vulnerable. And but still like still very attractive as a pigeon.
He was. I mean, that's why Lovey was all over him. I
I
mean,
know that pigeon was horny as hell. She
I
kept
think it
on
was
like,
funny
"Woo."
when he was like, "Girl, get on," like those parts. And then she had like that like fur thing that would like
Her
pop
little
up,
like
you know,
buff,
kind
yeah.
of
Mm.
um to probably some way like pigeons attract each other. Also funny that he I mean it makes sense given how the cocktail, the potion worked,
Mm-hmm.
that he was a girl. So like when he laid the egg, that was funny. um, those moments of nuances where he, and then like even when he saved Walter, and they're like laying out and they're kind of being all sentimental, kind of like in Bad
Mm-hmm.
Boys where it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
like don't hug me or whatever. and
Mm-hmm.
and or I oh when he had such a hard time saying I love you back to Martin's character. But he's like, all right, like let's stop before I lay an egg or something, like
Yes.
in
What
front of
what
Marcy.
happens in the submarine stays in the
Stays in,
submarine.
yeah.
For a second, I thought that he shat on him, like he squeezed him so hard that he like did a little bird turd.
That's yeah.
And so I kind of liked that they brought in that scientific, kind of like Jurassic Park element to it, right? Because they took female frog DNA to like fill in the rest of the gaps for the dinosaurs, and then that's how they were able to kind of like be asexual and like switch their sexes.
I did
Um,
not know that about Jurassic Park.
well, that's because they like genetically modified them to all be female so that they couldn't like fuck and procreate with each other. And then they started to see those like dino eggs. And then that's the whole like life finds a way thing, is because they took frog DNA to fill it in. And like certain frogs are known for being able to like be,
Oh.
can like switch their like sexual chromosomes or whatever. But whatever. It's not that, it does not get as complicated as Jurassic Park, but I liked that they filled in that gap. And he's like, "Oh, right, because I took a feather from my female pigeon, so it makes sense that you would have some like girl pigeon DNA."
Yeah. I mean, I thought too, this is why I like had to question myself. I know how I felt about him changing into a pigeon, but then so much of what happens as he's a pigeon kind of makes sense, and he's funnier. Like you said, he's more vulnerable because he's not able to be like the smooth super spy. He has
Mm-hmm.
to like, he can't even get in his car. He can't
Mm-hmm.
even like, he has a hard time like trying to like make a room key like,
Mm-hmm.
and gets hit and thrown out in the trash. And
And then even
I
like can't get the animal characteristics right, like doesn't know how to fly. At some point, Beckett's just like, "Here you go," and like throws him off the building. He's like, "I don't know how to fly yet."
Yeah. So like those things do add to the story and the character a little bit, like his pigeon journey. I just think that, there would have also been nothing wrong if he was just this awesome ass spy this whole movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
talking about like the abilities you have animating something to do like these crazy like action sequences and stunts and stuff makes me think like how come they don't animate more spy movies. Like I know there's this show Archer, which is like
Mm-hmm.
really body adult humor, but like what if they did that whereas like an adult James Bond type of spy movie but animated, and like it looks really slick and cool, and like you can do all these crazy stunts and all this stuff a hell of a lot easier. And yeah, I just don't understand adult animation sometimes, because it's like we get things like Sausage Party and these like very raunchy cartoons, but not so much like, let's just make a dope ass spy movie that's animated. I will say Kid Cudi is making, or has done, a animated movie that looks really cool.
Hmm.
That's like a love story. So I would love to watch that. But I don't know. That's where like I don't like to complain about things unless I could offer a solution. And so like yeah, he could have stayed a spy the whole movie, but how do we get the lessons that Sterling learns out of being a pigeon? I don't
Yeah. I
know.
mean,
So
he still could have been arrogant, and he still could have been like, "No, I'm the best. Like I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. I've done this a long time." And then have Beckett be a pigeon, but he's like, "Well, fuck, now I'm responsible for this kid that's now a pigeon," and he has to like take him with him and you like figure out how to get this kid back into human form, but then also like learn how to use the spy gadgets on his own and be like, "Oh, like instead of Beckett having to explain to Sterling, "Oh, these are all of my little contraptions and glitter and putty and lavender scented serum truth and fun stuff like that." Like it's more coming from Sterling having to learn how to use these things. And they still could have like worked together as a team while trying to both fight evil and turn one of the other back into a human again.
yeah. And I think you just take away the part of him being like wanted or accused, because
Sure.
that's the big part of him turning into a pigeon, is that the agency is looking for him because they think he stole this drone,
Hmm.
because the bad guy is a shapeshifter. They also didn't really explain that technology of how he could steal
Right.
his face. But so he steals his face, and so when they see who did what, they're like, "Oh, it's you," but it's not really him. And so he goes on the run and goes into hiding, and he remembers Beckett tells him, "Oh, I can make you disappear. I'm working on this stuff." So that's when they team up. But like if like you have to rework that in order for him to work with Beckett and to not be on the run, because that's a primary benefit of him being a pigeon, is like this whole time, like Marcy's running around and she sees Beckett and she's like, "You're really talented, you could help us, and I see your vision, all this stuff. Just tell us, like, where is Sterling and all this stuff." And he's right there, but he's a pigeon. And then
Hmm.
even at the end when she's like, "Oh my god, this whole time he was a pigeon. No wonder I didn't like see him."
Yeah.
And so that's a huge part of him being a pigeon too, is like his disguise. It's a
Hmm.
disguise for him as well, which is useful. Like great technology in a way. Like we joked about off air being like ferns and plants and being able to be in the room for things, but going unnoticed. And so as black as I am, I still would probably shapeshift if I could be some places that I normally couldn't be as myself. So I would happily be like, "Cool, cool, like look at the I'm at Beyonce's house." Like you know,
So I do have a follow-up question because one thing that I liked was that
make
um
that movie.
see someone gets
Secret
trans.
Life of Pets celebrities. Like,
Oh my gosh. So when Lance Sterling was a pigeon, he still has like some features that are true to him in his human form. So he has that little like bow tie
bow tie.
featurette in his feather pattern and also eyebrows. And like I mentioned earlier, teeth. There's a part where he screams and you see like inside his beak and there's teeth in there. I'm like, we didn't need to put the teeth in the beak, but
Yeah, I missed that
whatever.
part.
It's fine. At least when he like smiled, you didn't see it. I think that would have been more unsettling. It reminded me of the whole Sonic the Hedgehog conversation when they came out with the new Sonic movie, and there was like the original iteration of Sonic and then the newer one. But anyways, Bria, if you were animated into a pigeon, what physical features or characteristics do you think your animators would keep, or what would you want to keep?
It's funny because I feel like I know yours more than mine. Like, you definitely have on overalls.
See, I was gonna say some kind of like mustard yellow. Like I would have some kind of like yellowy feathers.
Little-
Yeah.
um, I don't know. At this point, probably a hoodie. I don't know that I have any consistent. Definitely, maybe some sneakers. I'd be like, that
Ooh.
pigeon got on sneakers. Like, yeah, and what about it? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that's my guess. What would you pick for yourself besides the mustard yellow?
I think I would do so you, like right now I'm not wearing a traditional hairstyle, but like I for
A
the
sidebar.
yeah, I would have some kind of a like feather side part and like a little clip to like keep the side part because you can take the emo you can take the girl out of the emo, but you can't take the emo out of the girl. I feel like for a very long time I've been wearing my hair in like a side swoop with some kind of like accented bobby pin.
Yes. I am curious too what a J-Lo pigeon would look like. It should be very
Ooh,
glamorous and
she would be
sparkly.
so sparkly and glamorous. It would not be like Angelina Jolie as a fish, but I feel like she would have like maybe her like tail feathers would be very like just like
She'd be like
long and
peachy too.
she'd be very peachy. She would have some kind of like blush on her cheeks for sure. And because we know JLo loves green, she would probably have some like emerald undertones in her feathers.
And I feel like she'd have that collar thing too
For sure.
that Lovey had, but it'd
For
be
sure.
like it'd be like white fur or something.
Do you think that
Like
they would give her some kind of like diamond?
and some hoops.
Daddy's big bitch.
Oh my god.
And
But
her pigeon would be something from the block. So she'd be like, I am a pigeon from Queens and
from the
I'm
Bronx.
from the Bronx. Not from
Like, don't
Queens.
get it twisted. I may look glamorous now, but I'm from the Bronx. Okay.
That's right. And
Us
my
Bronx pigeons
territory
are different.
is the 6 train. I run these breadcrumbs on the 6.
I mean, to be honest, I did think about that because, like, Secret Life of Pets and stuff, and I was like, how could and Rio and trying to think of other Chicken Run, but like they should make a pigeon movie, like, and two, this also confirmed to me at least the conspiracy that pigeons are like drones for the government to watch people because like people always joke about like you never see pigeons like in the wild, like they're always in cities and stuff, and just big government under his eye watching us through pigeons, just like and two, I mean, I've never seen anything about pigeons laying eggs. I know people have pigeon coops and that they were like carrier birds at one point, but yeah, there's such a mysterious bird kind of compared to like all the other birds that you see. Oh, did you want to talk about? I thought it was cute that they went to an escape room and
Yes, yes. So the making of this movie, there's some really great featurettes there of like, how they animated the characters and the molds and models that they had and just a little bit of like what Blue Sky Studio looked like. But I think we
which looks like a great place to work. Homegirl was scootering
She was
around the office. And I was like, I want a scooter in the office. I probably could because our office is so empty now that everyone like does work from home and hybrid.
Yeah.
But like, who's gonna stop me?
I know
You
there are a
can't
few
catch me
teachers.
on my scooter.
There are a few teachers on campus that have like longboards and stuff that like get to point A to point B, but I'm like, but that's when the kids aren't there. There are way too many like bodies I think to trip on that, like even if I'm like holding my cup of coffee and there's just like hundreds of tweens surrounding you, I'm like, don't you fucking bump into me because I'm gonna spill my coffee. Anyways, sorry, what was the question? Oh yes. Okay. They met
I
each
don't even
other
remember.
despite
the escape room.
yeah. So despite what people think about the time and process that it takes to make an animated movie, it's very rare when you have a whole cast or part of a cast together in a room animating or doing the voice work together. And this was an instance that Will Smith and Tom Holland never actually met until the premiere of the movie. And they did a little promo for it by doing an escape room together, which was pretty funny. And then from there, like went in their glam team and went to the premiere of the movie that night, which, that's why I think it's so cool that the two characters ended up having really great chemistry for the people who animate or voice them to never have met at all during the making of this movie. And I think that actually takes a lot of great acting work on behalf of Holland and Smith to be able to create something that like never actually existed in real life. But I was pleasantly surprised and pleased that when they were together, it looked like they were, having fun. He was kind of joking around like, all right, use your spidey senses to get us out of here. Come on. If there was a celebrity that you could do an escape room with, who would you want to be with?
That's hard. I'm competitive, so part of me wants to pick someone who's gonna like actually do well.
Mm.
And like all the people I love, like Janet Jackson, I feel like I don't know if she's competitive, but like she's so soft spoken. I feel like she'd be overwhelmed maybe with an escape room.
Mm.
And then Beyonce, I feel like she'd just be like, I'm above this. Like I should be at home with my kids and my husband. Like why am I doing this? She's also fun though, I think deep inside. So maybe she would do it. J-Lo's competitive. She would be someone good to like she'd want to figure that shit out. She'd be like, come on, we gotta like oh my god, so bossy. I don't know. Who would you want to do? I gave like three.
I know. So part of me wants to do throwaway answer of like I would choose someone that I'd really love and then just like not escape and just get to spend an hour with them because like the point of an escape room is trying to like get the fuck out of that
You'd
room.
be like on the mole. You'd be trying to sabotage. But,
I would
oops,
be.
I dropped the key.
I'd like tear up a clue or like, erase something like, oh, what? I don't know. So like
Don't do the escape rooms, Simone.
that's not true. I do enjoy escape rooms. I think I've gotten better at them. And this is obviously very off topic now at this point, but like when I've done quite a bit of escape rooms in my life. And at first I was like, I'm the comedic relief because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I'm just there like collecting clues or like organizing the things that we have left to do or like tasks that we still need to complete. And then it wasn't until I started to like do them more that I was like, okay, you kind of like know what you're looking at. Anyways, I digress. I would want to do an escape room with a very fun and charismatic and chaotic celebrity, like someone like Jack Black
Jeff
or
Goldblum.
well,
Black's a good
we
one.
need to find the next clue. Is it under this piano? And then he just starts playing piano for an hour. That would be amazing.
Jack Black would be funny. If I had to pick someone funny, I feel like Kevin Hart would be annoying.
Ooh, yeah.
I might pick someone like, Marlon Wayans would be funny, I feel like. Or like Mike Epps, he would be funny too. Or like
Yeah.
Chris Tucker.
Someone like Terry Crews would also be very fun because I know he's very like serious but also sensitive. I don't know. I just think that he's also so big and tall that he would like
Terry
have a hard
Crews would
time.
pick me.
Really, you think?
Yes. The things he said about like Black Lives Matter and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can have Terry Crews. You guys take him away. Yeah, I can't think of anyone else. Oh, I would too. I feel like doing it with the Warriors team would be like up my alley. Like,
Ooh.
that's when I'd sabotage. I'd be like, oh my god, oh it flew under the door. Oh no. And they're athletes, so they're all competitive.
Very
So,
competitive.
Any one of them. Steph, I feel like Steph would be fun probably. Clay would be fun but chill. Jordan Poole probably be cool. That rhymed. Anyways. Okay, maybe they're my picks more than like my diva pop singer girlies. Basketball player. Will would be fun. I would choose
yeah.
Will too if that was the option. Will take us to an escape room. On you.
Yes. And maybe out to dinner on you. But yeah, I think their promo for this movie was pretty good. But the two of them were so busy this year that, I think this was kind of an easy movie for them to do. All they had to do is show up and like read some lines and, not saying that animated work isn't difficult because again, if you're not like working side by side with the person that you're kind of co-starring with the movie in, that can be kind of hard. Or if you're only seeing like rough sketches of what they came up with and they don't have the music that's set in yet, like it might be difficult to understand the tone or the overall mood of the scene that you're recording for. But I thought that, yeah, their chemistry in person was just as good as their chemistry in the movie. And that, for having to do for Will Smith, he was doing Aladdin, Gemini Man, in also promoting those during this time. And then Tom Holland earlier did Spider-Man Far From Home earlier in that year too. So they were both very busy.
Yeah. I just think Will is like peanut butter. You know, he goes with anything. You make a Fluffernutter, PB&J, PB and banana, PB and honey, just peanut butter and cook like Oreos, like Parent Trap.
Mm.
It's very utilitarian.
Mm.
Unless you're allergic to nuts, then he's like a sunflower butter.
Oh, delicious. I love sun butter.
Or almond. Well, no, almond butter still nut. Anyways, I also hope he does more animated movies. That's a good avenue to go into as you get older, a la, you know, Tom Hanks, and, you know, to just lend your voice to stuff. Jack Black did all those Kung Fu Pandas. Also, like an animated trilogy or something, because he is a man of trilogies, but he has yet to do an animated movie that has multiple. And I actually would see a sequel of Spies in Disguise. I know Blue Sky Studios doesn't exist anymore, but it's owned by Disney now.
Yeah, you can watch this movie on Disney Plus if you have it, which took me by surprise. I didn't know that it was on Disney Plus. I thought it was going to be on like Hulu, or maybe I was going to have to rent it. So when it showed up on Disney Plus, I didn't, but I guess that makes sense because all of the Ice Age movies are also on there. So Disney ended up buying out Blue Sky and
Fox, right?
20th Century Fox. So they're like, Disney is the big ass umbrella company. Then there's 20th Century Fox underneath. But
the film industry really needs to do something about this monopoly, because it's a little ridiculous. Like, I like Disney, but like, do they really need to own like everything?
No.
And even when I was looking at the Oscar stuff earlier, like, you have all these amazing, probably like indie companies making these movies, and more than likely Disney or Pixar tends to win, and that kind of sucks, because I guarantee you it's stifling that movement and creativity and stuff. Which also makes me think of that Tim Burton article I read about how he doesn't want to work with Disney anymore. But just like his creative juices too, like trying to work with Disney weren't always like able to be completely what he wanted them to be. So
totally. Oh yeah. I mean, having worked for the company, it's restrictive, and it's I think a lot of people kind of tend to forget that. And speaking of Tim Burton, I am curious to, I think I'm going to try and give that Wednesday Addams show a watch, because he created that on Netflix. And
I didn't know that was him.
Either he directed or produced or did something with it. And the cast of that looks really interesting and exciting. And we just rewatched Addams Family 2 because it's on our Halloween rotation. So we watched that on Friday.
I haven't watched any Halloween movies except for Hocus Pocus. I'm sorry.
That one will be this week. I always watch that one close to Halloween.
I feel like I always watch it first, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Like, I want to watch more movies unless I see them on TV randomly, but like I watched a little bit of Beetlejuice because that came on before it. But yeah, like I haven't even watched the sequel yet. Like, I
haven't either.
Tapped in the spooky season this season, unfortunately. Well, anyways, we now have 2 movies left. Well, 3, but one has to come out. But
oh yeah, Emancipation. I'm really excited for that one. Bria, did you have a snack or a cocktail for Spies in Disguise?
I'm gonna go croutons. Pigeon.
Are they gluten-free though?
That was also funny when he went under the table and there's like food
garbage
under there that
food,
was like garbage, and he was like, why do I feel the urge? Nope, don't do it, Sterling. And then he like his pigeon sensibilities like overrode him, and he just started pecking at the garbage, and he's like, oh, why does it taste so good? That's so funny. Oh, and shout out to that one like gangly looking pigeon.
The
He
one with
reminded me of like
the candy stuck on his head.
yes, it reminded me of like Becky from
Yes,
Finding Dory and Hey Hey from Moana.
totally.
And
For a second, I
I
had to look to see if Alan Tudyk was the voice of that pigeon because it wouldn't surprise me if it is.
I love an awkward bird. I mean, it's just like it's amazing
It's just so
how
funny when their
lovable they
eyes just
are.
go "Meow" on either side of
Yeah.
their head. So funny.
Yeah, his little flock buddies, that was funny too. That like they just kind of and it makes sense. He's cool. So of course like they're like, "Yeah, we're going to go with this cool new pigeon." Like
Hmm.
but I like that they wound up being useful too to him and it wasn't just some like um random like, "Oh, okay, these pigeons now are, they've chosen you or something."
Hmm.
But anyways, so I don't know, maybe a salad with some croutons on it. And then cocktail wise, he had like a drink on the yacht that they were on,
Nice little
and
lemon
so
twist.
yeah, so maybe that and that's very spy like, in a
Hmm.
martini glass.
Hmm.
Ooh, glitter too.
Oh, some kind of a glitter drink. You know, I love it. I can't resist something that has glitter in it. I feel like because my cocktail for Aladdin was a genie martini, I was thinking about redoing another martini based off of what he had in the movie. But I did look up a drink for this one, and this one's called the Picante Pigeon. And it is made of muddled jalapenos with sugar, tequila, grapefruit juice, and
Mm.
lime juice. So it's like a paloma, but with some spicy, sweet jalapenos in it.
Hmm. Man, it's funny because I haven't been drinking and I like that sounds really good about right now.
That does sound kind of good. I have the ingredients to make them actually, but the jalapenos that I have are like pickled jalapenos, so I don't know how that one
Oh
will
no. I don't think you could use those in a cocktail. I mean,
go.
maybe someone has, but I'd be adverse to that.
Yeah,
And usually those aren't as spicy as when you use the
true.
raw jalapenos. Oh, there was another. Oh, or some sake because the Japanese
Oh, yeah.
restaurant looked bomb.
Yeah.
Or soju. Mm.
Also, give it up to those animators who animated a whole ass animated booty
Yes,
several times.
Kimura's ass was was amazing, and I loved his tattoos. Like I
Yeah,
love Japanese tattoos, and so
yeah.
he had like that full yakuza bodysuit, and so that was cool. If Disney made a sequel of Spice in Disguise, I don't know if we'd be getting booty in it, but
Definitely not. And, there was a lot of things I was like, this would not fly in like certain animator studios. So
but
again,
that's why I liked it so
and
much.
yeah, it's okay. You don't have to like fit this mold. You don't have to be like 100% PG or G with it because this movie is PG. But even when Lance Sterling turns back into a human in the submarine, he is naked, and luckily Beckett has a little backup suit tux for him to wear, but he like doesn't realize it at first, and it's all like waist up, of course. And he was just like, "Oh, these pecs, my abdomen," and he has a tattoo on his chest, and it's a Marine Corps tattoo. And I think a lot of people are like speculated that because Sterling keeps his hair rather short, that like perhaps he was in the Marine Corps before becoming a spy. I don't know, whatever. They chose to give him that little background story, but I thought that that was pretty funny.
Now that I'm thinking about it, how many animated movies have characters with tattoos? That's kind of forward animation,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. Besides Maui too, Maui,
Of course.
but that's newish.
Mm-hmm.
None from the Disney Renaissance. Oh, my man, Pocahontas. But
Oh,
yes,
Cocoam.
yes.
Come on now. We know how we feel about some bear claws up in here.
Also, I don't think Eve's are bear paws.
They're not bear paws? What are they?
No, I think they're like cat paws or something. I don't think they're bear paws.
Really? I'm fact checking it. They look very bearish to me. They are paw prints.
It could just be paws too. I could
That's
totally
true.
see her be like, yeah, I want some paw prints right here. What kind of paw prints? I don't know. Just find some that look nice.
So true. I have a few tattoos that I want to get. Blah blah blah. Let me blow. When I got, oh, she just says when I got the paws on my chest, my mom was like, "What the hell are you doing with your life?" Later on, I was kind of taking a break from the business. I should get these removed, and then
That
we
is her
decided not to.
signature.
Yeah.
You can't take those off.
This is true. Okay, you know what? They do, now that I look at them closely, they do look like cat paws, but with the way that the like claw marks are, it looks a little bit like it could
Bearish,
be
like
bearish.
I don't know. I never saw them as bear,
Mm.
but they're very, and she has not confirmed. So Eve, we would like to know
The people want to know. The
what
pod
kind of
wants to know.
paws? Who put their paws on you?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's like one of the most iconic tattoos in hip hop. Like you
Yeah.
can't get rid of those.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, all right, let's wrap this up. This is a nice, concise episode.
Yes. Overall, a fun movie. Would watch again.
Okay. Thank you for listening to this week's episode, and to the people who stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the FBI MI6 version of Inside the Actors Studio.
But seriously, if you like us enough to stick around and you think we're cool, take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole with us as we discuss Will Smith in the 2021 closure of a trilogy, baby, with Bad Boys for Life.
Is it a closure though? Because they're gonna make another one, aren't they?
Are they really?
I
Okay,
thought so maybe
it's a third installment then, y'all. Get ready. We're reprising Mike Lowry.
watch them not make another one. And on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I am your host, Simone. Subscribe to this blessed mess. Please leave us a like and some kind of a review if you're into it. Even if it's a negative review, we love feedback. As long as you can give us something that is a takeaway that we can use to further improve our show, we'd love to hear it. But, be nice because we're all so sensitive.
Constructive criticism is the note there. But I'm your host, Bria, and it would be awesome for you to wipe off those buttery pigeon talons and give us a follow at Roll Call Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and my favorite problematic Twitter. And listen to us on YouTube. Leave us comments on YouTube. Also, in the podcast, I believe, description, there's that link for Anchor to leave us a voicemail. That was fun a couple seasons ago. I always forget about that, but a few people left us voicemails. So if you're technologically not sound enough for social media, or you just rather be peaceful in your mindset, which I totally understand, drop us a line and give us a call and use that link. But yeah, this has been another episode of
Roll call and cut.